Hello everyone, Neagat here. Today I will be showing you a match of Littlewargame on Ravaged. In the bottom left corner, I'm playing the blue pieces, and then in the top right corner, we have a guest player playing the red pieces. So I think this will be an interesting match. I know for myself, I've been constantly trying to improve at the game, trying to develop strategies that'll make me better, as well as learn the metas that exist in this game. So, for instance, what I have learned is that usually whenever you start out a game, you either want to go into barrack play, you either want to play beasts, or you either want to go into mech play. And so those are things that I've been learning and trying to develop over the past couple days that I've been learning and honing my skills at this game. And as well as me learning and getting ready to play this game, I also wanted to say a really quick thing um, before I get this video um, too deep into this video where we get into the actual meat of the game, is that the whole reason that I'm doing this channel is because I love to play Littlewargame. I think it's probably the best RTS game that there is. I got most of my experience from playing StarCraft and StarCraft 2 specifically, and so I love the high action per minutes, the macroing, the microing, this whole type of game, and this is one that I've really fallen in love with. But I only discovered this game probably a week ago now, and so my whole goal is to try and grow this channel so that eventually people will come to discover Littlewargame through my channel, and they'll really get to love it. All right. With that out of the way, both my opponent and I have gone for a castle first build where we get a house, send the worker back. Once we get a couple more workers, we can afford a castle, and we're both going into beast play. So my opponent here, he's going for 2 dens, while I am going for the 1 den, and then I also have a tower right here in the center of this base for safety. Now, watching other YouTube videos and other strategy guides, I found that placing a tower in the center of this area on Ravaged covers the whole, basically where all the workers are, as well as this front as well. Other than that, chugging workers out, pumping workers out, and then getting, once I can afford it, getting wolves so that I can scout out my opponent and see what he's up to, is basically the name of the game here. And that's what my opponent's done already. He's sending out a wolf. He's going to scout out where I am relative to his position. I want to go ahead and take a look at what my opponent is doing more often than what I'm doing, because I'm pretty sure that my opponent has a little bit more skill than I do when it comes to playing the game of Littlewargame. Sends in his wolf into into my main base, basically scouts out all the buildings that I have, and I want to get rid of this wolf. I don't want it to annoy me for too long, so I send my wolves to take care of that. Like I said, let's check out his vision of my base. So he knows my whole condition for my base right now, whereas I have not scouted anything as of this moment. So I have no idea what his, if he's on 1 base, if he's on 2 bases. He's getting a 3rd base right now. That's basically what I'm trying to do and scout out for. Ooh. Finally realized that my wolves are getting attacked. I see that he brought a worker out, so that basically told me right there that he was on 3 bases and that I needed to start getting a third as well, or else I was going to seriously fall behind in this game. And like I predicted, he started his third base. Constantly adding wolf dens um, so that I can keep producing. This happens a lot to me actually, where um, I'm accumulating a lot of money, and thus I need to get more production facilities so that I can, spend that money on things. And then he starts this frontal assault. I basically take the fight head on. I know that I want to avoid him getting into my base. I really need this third, so any fight that I can take, I think I'll be okay. And as well as I have reinforcing units coming out. We're both floating a couple hundred resources, and that's usually not a good thing. Yes, that's usually not a good thing at all. It's actually kind of terrible. But I think I've done a better job of scouting, seeing that he hasn't taken a 4th base at this point, because usually when you do a move out like that, you can be pretty confident that you're going to be safe at home. Taking another base is always a good idea, I think. But instead, my opponent goes for more production and such ideas, whereas I go for an expansion here. It might be a little bit greedy, especially since my opponent has more wolves than I do. Actually, he would have 10 more wolves than I do, more than half, more than twice as much. But I scouted. I had this wolf here. I had 2 wolves here, so I decided, why not scout this base, see if he has a base there. Going for my 4th. At this point, I've researched snakes, and so has he. I don't think he's made any snakes yet, but I make sure to accumulate snakes in my army here. The reason for that is because wolves are melee units, and thus they can't attack except for what's directly in front of them. And so they're kind of terrible. It's kind of terrible to have a ball of wolves, because the wolves that are in the center or don't have an opponent right in front of them basically can't attack. Oh, this is kind of interesting. Both of our units just barely missed each other as we were both going for the scout and the attack on our opponent's bases there. So he sees that I have a 4th base, and I don't notice this actually. I should have, but I spent a lot of time focusing on this army here, and you'll see that throughout this whole experience, I basically make the major mistake of I'm too zoomed in onto what's going on here, and then I realize, okay, I need to start producing. I need to start making production stuff here, and that happens when I work on my income, which also means that I lose this entire army here as it gets pretty much wiped out by my opponent, and I also lose this 4th base. So that was it's a pretty devastating turn of events, and I really felt like in that moment I was pretty much on the back foot. But the good thing is that we're only 9 minutes in. He doesn't have too large of an army. I actually have more workers than he does, and I know I need to start doing things that'll make it so I can get a 4th base. That's my priority right now. When I saw these wolves over here, I thought they were going to come in right away and attack my units. So I built 2 houses right here, and then I canceled production on them as like a buffer. But then I quickly realized, oh, the wolves are still there. So so I have to go back and deal with that. This is a sad reality that these units are stuck here, but we'll deal with that later on. My workers go back. I immediately start producing again once I realize that I have the economy. And then I decide to go for this fourth base here. I actually think it's a lot safer, especially if my army is going to be assembled here. My army is assembled in a place where I can defend this base, the entrance to my main base, as well as, it can shift over and attack any army coming over here. So I think in my future games, I'll decide to make this my regular fourth base expansion, and then make this a fifth base once I have an army that can really be fluid and move around the map very much. At this point, I think my opponent had me on the ropes. I have to remake my fourth. My opponent, he should be making his fourth as well, which he is, but maybe even a fifth base where he can really overpower me through economy. Oh, but this right here is an interesting development. My opponent, he's going for dragons. He's actually got 2 queued up right now, while at the same time, he's getting his upgrade facilities out. But this will be really exciting to see his dragons come out. I think I decide to go for a fortress as well. It'll be interesting to see if I have dragon play in mind. I don't know if I do, but that'll be interesting. As you can see, I send these wolves out to scout the map and really just see how he's doing, as well as this army here. I sent out that army with the pure task to destroy a fourth base if he had one. And so instead of finding the fourth base, I realized he didn't get a fourth base, so that was a breath of relief to me. I get to kill a bunch of his units too, so that's another good thing. While this is all happening, he's sending out his dragons. I think he's going to do some harassment on my bases, or at least, that's the idea, to go out to do harassment, to really hurt the enemy. And so I basically say, I want to save these snakes. I'm going to have my wolves go in there, and then I'm going to kite back with my snakes. That's essentially what happened. Oh, I go for my fifth, and I decide to place it here. It's another good place to, if my army is already going to be assembled around this area, it's pretty close to that fifth base, and I can start getting bases. While this is all happening, his dragon flyby is starting up. So I gotta send some snakes, because snakes can shoot up, but let's go ahead and look at one of these snakes. Snakes specifically have minus 2.75 against flying units. So they're pretty bad when they're fighting against flying units. Pretty bad. But they're the only thing I have at this moment to deal with this threat, so I just gotta get my snakes in there. Which is rough, really, because he's stopping my economy from happening. He's killing a lot of workers. He has much more workers than I do at this point. And my opponent. This is interesting because my opponent, while this is all happening, he's pretty focused on these dragons right now, and you can tell this because he's got an excess of 1,500 resources that he should be using. To build up another army, to be maxing out, and to send that army over here where I'm exposed and really finishing me off. And this whole time, and that's why I said earlier, I think my opponent was definitely better than me in skill. Where I felt like there were so many times I should have GG'd out. This specific moment where I type nice, this is one of those moments where I say, like, I should really GG out. I don't know if I can win this, but then again, I take a look at the map. I have theoretically 3 bases. So 1, 2, 3, theoretically 4 actually, because I have this base here, mining bases. And I have an army, and so let's just see what happens. He goes in for this super amazing flank. He has units from here, here, here. I was really impressed with this flank. He just comes in and really starts to wreck house. As you can see, I have my snakes though, which are pummeling his units from behind, and I have units that can work as a front line. So the AI in this game isn't very good. So people that can micro can really really get a lot of value with their units. But if you ever have like a worker that can frontline and soak up a bunch of damage, that can sometimes be enough for you to win fights. I'm keeping my minerals low, and I'm getting as many units as I can to try and win this fight. And as you can see, he lost that whole army that came in there. Obviously, I've lost more units, especially with those killed workers. He's even making more money than I am, but I am just barely holding on. Like really, really barely holding on. You know, he still has these dragons that he can make. He's even transitioning into a higher. I consider mech to be a little bit higher in terms of value. You can get a lot of value with these catapults, and so he's transitioning from beasts into mech actually. So I think that's a pretty interesting thing about this game. It's one of those things like in StarCraft. If you play like a Terran, you're stuck with the Terran pieces. So like if I'm a Terran player, I can never build an Ultralisk or a Broodlord. But in this game, you know, if you like play Beast, which is kind of like Zerg, you can transition into Rax play and get soldiers against wolves, and that's just so interesting to me how that whole thing works. It's not always ideal though, especially when the upgrades don't overlap, but it is interesting to see. As you can see, I'm going for these run-bys. I actually have my whole army here to try and attack this. My thoughts with the reason to bring my whole army was if I fought his whole army, I wanted to make sure that I would be stronger. Like I couldn't really afford to just straight up lose units. So that's why I wanted to take a stronger force. And so he has his dragons here to try and fight this, as well as he's now going for my he's attacking my 4th base, and I'm trying to reinforce that as well as I can. I've got my units queued to go here, and my workers, you know, they're getting absolutely destroyed. But I'm thinking about this fight where I can, you know, I can lay some damage. I destroyed his 4th base, he destroyed my 4th base. Now I'm going for another base. While this is all happening, I notice, okay, he's got another base here. I should go for that. I see him coming for me, so this time I'm a little bit better in terms of being on top of what's going on. And you know, I say, okay, I can give this up, but that means you'll also have to give this up, and I'm going to get another base, kind of thing. I have these units. His whole army is down here, and so I decide. Hopefully I decide. We'll see when I start moving those things. But I decide, you know, I'm gonna have all my reinforcements come here and stop him. I'm gonna move this army into his main base and see what kind of damage I can do. You know, the advantage to fighting a little bit closer to base is that whatever reinforcements I have coming come a little bit faster because they don't have to travel as far. So let's see here. Oh yeah, his catapults are doing a ton of damage. They really can destroy zones and like zones of units. So that's why I got to make sure to micromanage my units and make sure that, you know, they're moving around, or else hits like that where they'll kill my snakes happens. while this is all going on, I'm attacking his base, and I'm making sure um, to get his stuff down. And this is where my opponent realizes his mistake. He sends me a message saying, he was floating resources. Oh no, kind of thing, right? And he's not floating resources anymore because now I have this whole army coming after him, and he's lost a lot of resources, similar to me. But I've been making sure to take fourth bases, fifth bases, and replenish those units. In total, we have I actually have 200 more gold in total than he did. But again, it's been very back and forth. It's actually been incredibly back and forth if we think about it. He had his dragons come around and really destroy my base. He just destroyed two bases that I had, but I made sure to be resilient and to constantly be producing. So that's what I was trying to do. And you can see that there's another fight. This is pretty bad for me actually, because once my wolves died, my snakes are overly exposed, and so I probably lost 5 or 6 more snakes than I wanted to lose. And so I'm thinking, I want to keep doing damage in the base, but I also have to deal with this force here. So that's when I start to move these units back in and try and fight this. As you can see, I try and go for a 6th base, 1, 2, 3, 4, actually a 5th base, but he shuts that down with the wolf. This is where I send my reinforcing units that have been, being assembled over here. And, for me personally, I just want to take out whatever bases he has mining right now. And currently, he only has 1 mining base. His first 3 bases are mined out, and I'm making sure to squish out any chance that he has to get another base. Floating resources again, and hopefully I produce a bunch of units to make that not so. But after this really long game, right? After this really, really exciting game, I think, where I was going back and forth, my opponent decides to GG out, which is fair. He's on 1 mining base, and I'm on 3, almost 4. So I just want to say good game to my opponent. That was extremely back and forth, especially with how he harassed. But at this point, my opponent GG's out. All right, well, if you had any thoughts, or if you enjoyed my videos and content in any way, please leave a like. I'm posting content daily, so I'm hoping that helps with like YouTube algorithms to try and really advertise this game, because I really think that it has so much potential, to be an amazing game. But with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching my video. I hope that you guys have a great rest of your day. Please like and subscribe. All right. Bye-bye.